What is up, awesome peeps? Brent McCluskey here with Electrified Reviews, and today we are reviewing the Evelo Aries electric bike. This thing is awesome. It is super fun to ride. It's a very sweet kind of city bike, this full suspension ride with the fat tires. Really excited to dive into this, but I know a lot of you guys have probably tuned in just to see the winner of the Flow.X electric bike. So we are going to announce the winner there. Again, remember that, guys, that was hosted on Gleam. There's a bunch of ways you could enter that. There was like Instagram entries, YouTube, whole bunch of stuff. But without any further ado, the winner of the Flow.X electric bike is, come on Apple Watch, David Clark. And the action that he won that with was visiting Instagram. So David Clark will be contacting you here to get you sorted out, to get that sent out to you. Thank you guys so much for entering that. We do have a few more other giveaways right now. They're still active. So if you didn't win that, you can still enter the other giveaways we have active right now. And we have more giveaways coming. So let's roll the B-roll. All right, awesome peeps. So again, this is the Evelo Aries electric bike, and right off the bat, look, just like all Evelo bikes, this thing comes with there's a lot of quality stuff here, not just in the bike itself, but just with the company. So to start, I do want to mention this thing comes with a 2-year comprehensive warranty and a 4-year warranty on the frame. So there's it's a lot of warranty, very generous. Typically, the max you'll see is like 1 year. Every once in a while, you'll catch a company that does 2 years, but it's not very common. And for a direct order bike, I mean, that's pretty dope because it just gives you kind of that feeling of confidence when you buy it that, look, if something does go wrong in the future, even in the somewhat distant future, Evelo will take care of you. Now, as far as frame sizes and colors go, this thing only comes in one color here. It's gonna be this orange and blue. I think they call it midnight orange or midnight blue, something. I don't know what they call it, but anyways, it looks pretty dope. I like this color scheme. I wish they did offer more colors, but it's all good. Now, frame sizes, again, this is one of those things you don't always see, but you should see it on bikes at this price point, and the price point for this, by the way, is $2,499.99, or we'll just round up to $2,500. So not an entry-level bike, definitely a more advanced bike, and you're paying for a lot of those advanced features and like that warranty stuff we're talking about. But for frame size, this is kind of cool. What they do here at Evelo is you go to the website, and then when you want to buy this thing, you input your actual height, like exactly how high you are, and then they will pick the frame size for you. So I don't know how many frame sizes they have. I'm guessing probably 3, like most companies, kind of like a small, medium, and large. But instead of giving this consumer the option to pick, they just say, hey, what's your height? Put that in, and then they say, oh, well, based on your height, this is the exact frame size you should get. So very cool. I do like that a lot. Now let's dive into the specs of this bike here, the Evelo Aries. Starting back here, we've got this pretty large 750 watt Bafang motor here. I mean, I love the Bafang motors. They are affordable. They are very powerful. Honestly, they're quite a bit more powerful than, even the Bosch and the Bros, or the higher end or the highbrow motors, however you want to call them. And look, this thing's got 120 Newton meters of torque, which is just a stupid amount of torque, man. This thing is really torquey. And one of the problems that, I find a lot with these fat tire bikes is the fat tires are a lot heavier. They have a lot of rolling resistance, and it really makes the motor feel sluggish. That's not the case for this bike, and really it's because it's a 750 watt Bafang motor with all that torque. So it really helps to compensate for these tires here, which we'll dive into a little bit more. But that motor here, 750 watt nominal, 1000 peak watts of power, maybe a little bit more for the peak watts of power. It brings this bike up to a top speed of, where's the throttle? Over here on the left. Top speed of 20 miles per hour. Out of the box. However, you can unlock this thing to go 25 miles per hour. You can reach that top speed with a throttle here on the handlebars, or it has a cadence sensor, 12 magnet cadence sensor. You can see that right there, those little shiny parts, those are the magnets. So out of the box, 20 miles per hour, that makes this a class 2 electric bike. It's gonna be legal to ride in a lot more areas than if you unlock it to 25 miles per hour, which will make it a class 3 electric bike. So just something to keep in mind if you are going off-road, maybe kind of a trail like this or something, not a lot of people around, you're not really worried about, you know, running into people. Yeah, man, unlock it, like do what you wanna do, right? Now, I mentioned that cadence sensor here. Here's another view of it on this side. 12 magnet cadence sensor. Like all cadence sensors, this one does have a little bit of a delay from the time that I start and stop pedaling to the time that the motor here actually starts kicking out power and shuts off. That's common. You're gonna find that in every cadence sensor. However, this one's pretty responsive. I'm not sure what they're doing here with like the sine wave controller or whatever, but it's actually a pretty responsive cadence sensor, one of the more responsive ones that we've tested. So, you know, I gotta give Evelo props for that. Again, not really sure how they're achieving that, but it does feel, it just feels like there's not a lot of lag. It almost feels like a torque sensor, not in the sense that it's, you know, it's not giving you a corresponding amount of power based on your feedback, but as far as the start and stop time, I mean, it's lickety split, man. I really like that. Let's just jump right here to the tires. I love these tires, man. These things are, they're kind of a thing of beauty. I think this is maybe the first time we've tested kind of fat tires that are street instead of, you know, the knobbies, like for really truly for off-road. Now these tires are 26 inches tall, 3 inches wide, okay? So it's still gonna be boost hub spacing here in the front axle and the rear axle, whatever, but it's not 4 inches, so it's not, I mean, I guess you could still call it a fat tire. Well, I'm gonna call it a fat tire because it's definitely a lot bigger than like the standard 1.75, 2-inch wide tires. Now these fat tires, like I talked about a little bit earlier here, these do still create some extra rolling resistance, and they're heavy. The wheels are heavier because of these big tires. So it does make it harder for the motor to turn these compared to a smaller tire size. And even though they're 26 inches, I mean, really, the fat tires, they add a lot of extra height, okay? So these feel more like almost like 28-inch tires. They're huge. I mean, just look at how big the actual tire is. There we go. The actual tire, come on, you can focus. The actual tire compared to, you know, the wheel itself. So a lot of tire there. Now that's gonna be good. The bigger tires, man, they just have a lot of air in them, and they make for a really cushy, spongy, soft ride. That's really where these things excel. So like I was saying, maybe I was saying it earlier, I don't know, but these kind of fat tires, they work really well for less than ideal roads. Roads with a lot of bigger cracks in it, a lot bigger than this. You know, anything that's just not gonna be perfect, these things are gonna really, really work well for them. It's also gonna work well if you do wanna take this off-road, like on some lighter trails, which you can do. These tires are gonna be good for folks who wanna go through sand, who wanna go through snow, maybe some mud, gravel especially, these things do quite well in, and I think that's kind of a realistic place to take this, is kind of through some gravel trails. And that's just because the tire patch on these tires is ginormous. It's just, there's a really, really big tire patch. So yeah, dig that. All right, now for the brakes on this, we've got mechanical disc brakes, Tetra mechanical disc brakes, 160 millimeter rotors here in the front and the rear. Now, the stopping power on this is good. It's good stopping power. It's not, you know, ridiculously strong braking power. And that's one thing, I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't mind seeing hydraulic disc brakes at some point on this bike, at least as an upgrade option. I think when a bike has this powerful of a motor and can go up to 25 miles per hour, probably even faster if you unlock it, you know, you want that extra stopping power because this is an electric bike, this isn't an analog bike, and with all that extra speed and power, you just wanna make sure you've got all the stopping power you can possibly have. Again, I do wanna reiterate, the stopping power here is good. But look, if they can't do hydraulic brakes in the future, maybe we could upgrade these rotors here to at least 180 millimeters, preferably even like 203, something like that, just to really give this thing some extra bite, because perfect conditions, yeah, braking is actually pretty good. But I guess what I'm kind of thinking about here is, look, if I do take this thing in the sand, in the snow, in the mud, then I'm gonna get a lot of gunk, you know, in between the calipers, and that's gonna reduce that. It's gonna reduce the bite of the calipers on the actual rotors, and that's where, you know, hydraulic brakes come in, because they apply a lot more pressure, or just bigger rotors in general. Not a huge deal, not like a deal breaker for me, but that's something I wanted to definitely point out. Now, I mentioned the tires, how they help with the suspension on this bike. But this does have full suspension, you know, so even without the tires, this thing does really well as far as suspending the ride. For the front suspension here, we've got Suntour XCM spring suspension. Boom, Suntour XCM. About 100 millimeters of travel or so. These suspension do have preload adjust. You can see on that one right there. And on this side, we've got lockout. And that's gonna be really important because that is going to let me adjust the suspension for my weight. I weigh about 180 pounds, so I want my suspension a little bit stiffer to kind of compensate for that weight. And it's also gonna allow me to adjust it depending on how I'm riding. So if I'm riding on flat stuff like this, I probably don't need as much suspension. I wanna save the energy, maybe stiffen them up. If I'm going through some more, ups and downs, stuff like that, maybe I want them spongier, whatever. Basically, it just allows you to adjust them how you want. Now for the rear suspension, honestly, not really familiar with this. I think it's called a K-Zen. I don't know much about this one here. Probably, I don't know, 15 millimeters of travel. Not a whole lot, but you can feel it. You can feel the full suspension even with this little rear suspension here. And you look like you can kind of adjust the preload here just by twisting this, you know, this way or that way. You can see the threads here. So if I bring it in or if I let it out, that's going to call it a K-Zen or looser. Basically, it's kind of a way to hack preload adjust, right? Man, where else can we go for this? Let's talk about the frame real quick. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but you know, look, so I said this thing does come in multiple frame sizes. So each frame is gonna be a little bit different in weight. The construction is gonna be the same, 6061 aluminum alloy, but this one right here, it weighs about 64 pounds, which is, you know, it's heavy, but it's not that heavy. It's actually, all things considered, it's actually kind of light because it is full suspension. It has a pretty large motor here in the back, the fat tires. So I'm impressed with how Evelo has managed to keep the weight down. I think one of the ways they've done that is really just by cutting into this frame here. This is a custom designed frame. It's just another reason why I like Evelo here. They do stuff right. This is not just like a repurposed, regular analog bike frame with a battery thrown in. No, this is a custom designed frame for Evelo. Now the battery here, and so basically, why I'm talking about that for the weight is, look at the battery, how it sits in there. If that, instead of the battery, if that was all frame and the battery sat on top or somewhere else, all that extra frame is gonna be more weight. So I don't know, maybe that's one of the ways they kept the weight down. I don't really know, but the battery here itself is gonna be a 48 volt, 11.6 amp hour battery for a max estimated range of about 45 miles. That's what they say on the website. And I think that's a fair estimate. Look, like we always say, okay, range really depends on how the bike is ridden, the rider weight, the conditions, like the road, the weather, do you have wind? Like there's just so many variables. So it's so hard to give you a real world example of what the range is gonna be, which is why, look, we give you an estimate, but the best way to determine, to compare one battery to another from another review is just the specs. So 11.6 amp hour, 48 volt system, 11.6 amp hour, that's gonna be a little bit larger than average for the battery size. So yeah. Now the battery itself here it's locking and it's removable. So I can get the keys out if I wanted to, pop the battery out of the frame, boom, and I can charge the battery separately from the bike, which is great because that means this thing is big, man. This is a big bike. So that means I can store it separately, I can charge it separately, I can keep the battery in a nice, cool, dry place, help increase the longevity of the battery. This is the charging port right here for the battery. It's gonna be this little hinge, boom. And it also has a USB type A port, so which is, man, every electric bike battery should have a USB port, man, because what it means is, like, let's say I want to park this thing outside, I'm going to a coffee shop and I'm like, oh, my phone's almost dead, whatever. I can bring this battery in, throw it in my backpack, and then I can use this to charge it up. So just really, really like that. Now on top of the battery here, there's a little button and it gives you a kind of a quick indicator of how much juice is left. 5-bar battery indicator, really, really nice here. I really like this. Just clean, easy to see, even in direct sunlight. 4 blue, 1 red. Good stuff, 20% increments here. Derailleur. So we've got a 7-speed Shimano Tourney derailleur here in the back. Pretty average stuff here. This is gonna be an entry-level derailleur. So this is something that we talk about sometimes, and I think it's appropriate to talk about here because I think it's easy to think, hey, this is a $2,500 bike. Why isn't there a better, higher-end derailleur on here? Personally, we think that it's not derailleurs do not matter that much for electric bikes. They matter, yes, but not as much as they do on analog bikes. And one of the biggest reasons is because the savings you get or the benefit you get from a higher end derailleur is going to be primarily weight savings. It's going to be a few grams lighter, and yes, it's going to shift maybe a little bit better. It's going to reduce derailments a little bit, but really it's kind of like a weight savings game. And when you have an analog bike and you're trying, got a road bike and you're really trying to reduce weight, every gram matters. And if you guys do road racing or whatever, like you know what I'm talking about. Like grams matter, man. You spend $500 on clipless pedals that are a few grams lighter or whatever. But look, on something like this where you've got that big motor, the big battery, honestly, it doesn't matter. And I think this is one of the areas that Evelo is kind of trying to just keep the price down as much as they can. Frankly, I think that's fine. It doesn't matter. Now, they upgraded, instead of kind of regular trigger shifters or like instead of like a Shimano SIS entry-level trigger shifter up here, they have a Revo twist shift, a grip shift thing here on the right side of the handlebars. And I personally love these, man. Like, I don't know, I first saw these things when I was a kid and I fell in love with them. I don't really see them that much anymore. I'm not really sure why, but I like them. They're easy to use. You just keep your hand right here, twist, and you can switch gears. And I actually like these better than trigger shifters because for me, like, I feel like the trigger shifters are kind of getting away with my grip. And if I'm doing more aggressive riding, it's just kind of like, I feel like these fingers have to be free for the trigger shifters. Whereas with the grip shift, you just put your hand down and you can lock onto these handlebars and you've got a solid grip the entire time you're riding and you can just twist. Does that matter that much to this bike? I mean, I'm not gonna be doing super aggressive riding, but I don't know, I'm just trying to point everything out here. Also, one thing I forgot to mention about the brakes here is that these brakes do also have motor inhibitors built in. It's gonna be this wire right here. So that means whenever I depress the brake levers, even just a little bit, it's gonna instantly cut power to the motor, which is gonna make sure that I'm not fighting against the motor when I brake, because remember, this is a cadence sensor and there can be a delay from the time I start and stop pedaling. So I hit the brakes, it shuts off power to the motor and it ensures the shortest possible stopping distance. I really like that. Wire management here, there's a lot of wires coming out and I think they did a pretty good job. I think it's a fair job. I like how the wires here are internally routed into the top tube and the down tube. It makes her pretty clean here. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking, I would probably want to get just something else to kind of wrap all the wires together, keep them nice and tightly bundled. I'm a freak when it comes to wire management. I want them to be super clean. I don't know how are you guys? Like, do you care about wire management or is that just something that I kind of harp on? I don't really know. So it does have integrated lighting as well, front headlight here. And it also has a rear tail light. I mean, of course it's a rear. If it's a tail light, it's in the rear, right? But what's also cool about this, I'm gonna go and turn it on real quick so I can show you, and then we'll talk about the display real quick. There we go, turned on. Boop, boop, boop. We're gonna turn the lights on. All right, so here's the rear tail light right there. It's kind of hard to see in direct sunlight. It's not super bright. Here, I'll just go and set this down actually because I want to show you this. All right, so rear tail light, boom, there we go. Now, if I hit the brake levers, can you even see it, man? You can barely, I feel like you can't even see it. Well, I don't know. When it's a little bit darker, you can see it. But basically, when you hit the tail lights, when you hit the brakes, the actual taillight gets a little bit brighter, kind of like a car taillight to let you know that, hey, I'm stopping. This is what the front headlight looks like right there. Now, the lights here, and this is true of almost every light that I've seen on electric bikes, they're not really designed, I don't think, to illuminate your path, right? So if I'm riding at night, I'm not gonna use these lights to illuminate the trail ahead of me. It's for increasing visibility, right? Because if you're looking directly at a flashlight from far away, you can see the light, even though the person who's using it may not be able to see the path in front of them that much. And that's kind of what these lights are for, just for safety, increasing visibility, right? And if you guys want to increase visibility even further, you can get like aftermarket stuff like reflective sidewall tape. You can just throw it on there. You can get reflective stickers. We've reviewed the Lumos helmet. It's got lights in that. They got reflective clothing, whatever. So yeah, just kind of you can figure out how you want to do that. So yeah, let's talk about this display here. This is one of my favorite displays, probably of all time. This is the King Meter display, I believe it's called. It's actually a Bafang display. It's just rebranded by Evelo here. It's got the Evelo name on it. This display is super easy to see in direct sunlight. I just really like it. There's a lot of good info on here, and the info is laid out really clearly. So speed in the middle. And then when you start to travel on this thing, as you start to gain speed, there's a little bar that just kind of ticks up like this. and just gives you kind of a visual representation of your speed, so you can just glance down and be like, oh yeah, like that's about 15 miles an hour instead of, I don't know, just different ways to see it, whatever. This has gone down here is going to be your pedal assist level. Actually, we'll just go ahead and do that. Pedal assist level. So we've got 5 different modes here, or 6 different modes. Off like this, and oops. When it is off, if I hit the throttle, you'll see that nothing happens. So the throttle here is going to be dead when it's in the 0 mode. That's just basically an analog bike. Now, if I want to get into positive pedal assist modes, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I get to those by using this independent button pad right here on the left. Okay, so we've got a couple different buttons here. Up and down, plus and minus is what they are. We've got the lights here, long press to turn them on, long press to turn them off, info button, power button. Okay, so right now it says tripometer 3.1 miles. If I hit the power button, or which one is it? Maybe the info button. Yeah, if I hit the info button, you'll see the specs change. It's going to be the odometer, max speed, average speed, range, calories burned, time, and then back to trip. So yeah, again, just really happy with this display. I really like the key meter display from Bafang. It's just a really solid display. Oh yeah, actually, and on this display as well, there's also a USB Type A port, boom, right there in the bottom. So if I wanted to, I could also put my phone right here on the handlebars, put a wire right in there, charge the phone, or we talked about the lighting, how it's not that strong. Okay, no big deal. If you want, you can get an aftermarket light, put it right here. If it's USB powered, plug it right in, and yeah, you're good to go, man. It's pretty easy deal here. Trying to think if I've missed anything on this bike, anything else we should talk about before we dive into the ride portion here. I feel like there's always more stuff to talk about. I think we're good to go though. So, all right, next thing to do, let's take this thing out for a ride. We will show you this bike in action. Here we go. All right, awesome peeps. That is pretty much it for the review of the Evelo Aries electric bike Again, this thing is gonna be obviously kind of a higher price point. It starts at $24.99, but just like all the Evelo bikes, this thing does come with a lot of quality. And quality aside, it comes with some stuff that you just, sometimes it's kind of hard to find on direct order bikes. First of all, that warranty, like we talked about, 2-year comprehensive, 4-year on the frame, very, very generous warranty. Also, while it only does come in one color, this kind of, I think it's called like midnight orange or something, it does come in multiple frame sizes, and it's kind of cool how they do it. Instead of just small, medium, and large, they actually have you put in your exact height on the website and they will pick the right frame size for you. So that's really cool. Also, I do like these kind of fat city tires. I mean, they're 3 inches wide. They're not as big as, you know, some of the other ones you've tested, 4-inch wide tires, but they're still really fat, and they're gonna be really good for floating over loose terrain, gravel, snow, mud, stuff like that. Obviously, this is gonna be really good for people who are looking for a longer commuter city bike, probably for less than ideal roads, because remember, the posture on this, guys, is gonna be that upright posture, the swept back handlebars. It's really comfy to ride, especially with the full suspension, and with that 48-volt, 11.6 amp hour battery, that 45-mile range, this thing really can get you to your destination and then some, especially if you are generous on the throttle, or easy on the throttle, and generous on the pedaling if you actually do help with the pedaling here. So anyways, guys, I hope you did enjoy this review of the Evelo Aries. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And yeah, man, I hope you're having an awesome day. Holidays are coming up. Hope you got some fun stuff planned, and we'll catch you next time.